From the Correspondence Archives of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In the autumn of 1891, when my medical practice was still young and my literary endeavors beginning to bear modest fruit, I received a most unusual letter bearing a German postmark. The correspondent identified himself as Professor Leopold Kronecker of the University of Berlin, a mathematician of some renown, though this meant little to me at the time. The letter, written in impeccable if somewhat formal English, detailed a tragedy of the most personal nature. The professor's wife, Fanny Prosnitzer Kronecker, had met with a fatal accident in the Austrian Alps on August 23 of that year, a circumstance rendered all the more perplexing by the fact that the lady had never, in her 63 years, shown the slightest inclination toward mountaineering or indeed any alpine pursuit. It is with reluctance that I impose upon a man whose talents lie in the literary rather than the investigative sphere, wrote Kronecker, yet I have read with interest your tales of detection and deduction in the Strand magazine. Though your character of Sherlock Holmes is doubtless a fictional creation, the methods you ascribe to him suggest a mind attuned to the nuances of logical inquiry, a quality we share, despite our different disciplines. He went on to explain that authorities had pronounced the death accidental, a tragic misstep on treacherous terrain, but that certain inconsistencies in the reporting had left him deeply troubled. He did not elaborate extensively, stating only that they were of a nature I find difficult to accept, hinting at discrepancies concerning the location and equipment involved. I might have dismissed the letter as the desperate grasping of a grief-stricken widower, had it not been for the final paragraph. There are mathematical circles in which passions run as deep as in any political cabal. I have enemies, Dr. Doyle, though you might wonder how a discipline so abstract could engender such antipathy. I ask only that you hear my account in person. If you find my suspicions groundless, I shall trouble you no further. The appeal struck a chord. Though I had indeed invented Sherlock Holmes out of whole cloth, I had, in creating him, developed a certain sympathy for the deductive method. Moreover, I found myself curious about this world of mathematical intrigue that Kronecker alluded to. I replied that I would visit Berlin at my earliest convenience, though I made no promises as to what assistance I might render. My practice could spare me for a fortnight, and my literary agent assured me that the Strand could wait for my next submission. Before departing, however, I made certain inquiries through academic contacts at Edinburgh. Professor Kronecker, I learned, was indeed a mathematician of the highest standing, though controversial. His dictum, God made the integers, all else is the work of man, reflected his conviction that mathematics must be grounded in concrete construction. More intriguing still was his bitter dispute with one Georg Cantor, formerly his student, now his intellectual antagonist. Cantor's theories regarding actual infinities Kronecker found not merely erroneous but dangerous, a grave disease, corrupting mathematical thought. Their dispute had long since become a feud of remarkable bitterness. Armed with this context, I set sail for the continent. Professor Kronecker received me in a book-lined study in his Berlin home. He was very short, impeccably dressed, beard shot with silver, his eyes alert and penetrating, belying his apparent frailty. You must forgive an old man's presumption, he began. Grief can make phantoms of shadows. Yet I cannot shake the conviction that Fanny's death was no accident. Perhaps if you would share the details that trouble you, I suggested. Kronecker retrieved a folder. The official report, he said, passing it to me. Note the details, he urged, his voice tight. They state she was found on the Adlerspitz Trail, a route requiring technical skill, Dr. Doyle, skill Fanny could never have possessed. More telling, the report mentions sturdy climbing boots found near the body. Yet Fanny owned no such footwear, she positively detested anything resembling mountaineering gear. I examined the documents and photographs carefully. Though possessing none of the lightning insight I granted Holmes, even I noted something further amiss. The climbing rope, supposedly frayed upon sharp rocks during the fall, seemed depicted with a curious tidiness in the photograph, less the result of a fatal tumble, more like a prop carefully arranged after the fact. There is more, said Kronecker, his voice lowering. 3 days before her death, Fanny received a letter that disturbed her greatly. She would not share its contents, saying only that it concerned university matters. The letter has vanished. And you suspect this Cantor? I asked directly. Kronecker's eyebrows rose. You are well informed. Basic research, I replied. Your dispute is hardly secret. Dispute? A bitter laugh escaped him. Systematic warfare is nearer the mark. Yes, I have considered Cantor. Not as the direct instrument, his health is poor, his nerve questionable. But he has followers, young mathematicians embracing his notions of the infinite with almost religious fervor. Yet you have no proof. None admissible in court. Only mathematical intuition, a sense of patterns manipulated beyond my perception. Which is why I sought an outside perspective, someone not blinded by academic politics. I promised to look into the matter, warning my abilities fell far short of Holmes's. Kronecker thanked me, providing letters of introduction. My first stop was Halle, where Georg Cantor had recently founded the German Mathematical Society. I presented myself as an author researching mathematical innovations. To my surprise, Cantor himself agreed to see me. He was not what I expected. Where Kronecker was contained, Cantor vibrated with nervous energy, his dark eyes burning with an almost feverish intensity. Though not yet 50, he seemed weathered by severe storms. Dr. Doyle, he greeted me, your Sherlock Holmes has quite captured the German imagination. Though mathematics leaves me little time for fiction. I smiled. What is mathematics, if not fiction? I said, his eyes fired with rage. Besides, fiction often draws inspiration from reality, Professor Cantor. The methods of deduction have their parallel in mathematical reasoning, I should think. Perhaps, he allowed. Though mathematics permits certainties your detective can only aspire to. We spoke of his work, of which I grasped perhaps one word in 10. Yet I was struck by the passion with which he described his explorations of infinity. These are not mere abstractions, Dr. Doyle, he insisted, eyes blazing. They are truths. And truths, once glimpsed, once proven, reshape the very fabric of thought or reality. They have consequences, ripples that extend far beyond the academy, whether little men like Kronecker wish them to or not. I understand your theories have met with resistance, I ventured. Cantor's expression darkened. Resistance is mild. Kronecker made it his mission to eradicate my work. For decades, he prevented my appointment to Berlin, relegated me here, delayed my publications through his influence. That must have been difficult. More than difficult. It nearly destroyed me. Times I thought I might lose my mind entirely. He paused. But that is behind us now. My theories gain acceptance. This society is evidence. I understand Professor Kronecker was invited to its founding. A shadow passed over Cantor's face. Yes. A gesture of reconciliation. And then, of course, after Fanny's death. He shook his head. A terrible business. I would never wish such grief upon him. You knew Mrs. Kronecker? Slightly. She was gracious, even when Leopold was at his most savage. I studied him. His distress seemed genuine, yet there was a guardedness. Professor Kronecker thinks her death was not accidental, I said, watching him closely. Cantor's eyes widened. What reason could anyone have? Perhaps to harm him, through her. That is, monstrous. Cantor's hands trembled visibly. I know some think me vindictive, Dr. Doyle, but I am a mathematician, not a murderer. My dispute is intellectual. I meant no accusation, I assured him. Of course. He rose abruptly. Forgive me, my physician insists I rest. My constitution is not robust. As I left, Cantor pressed a small volume into my hands, his papers on transfinite numbers. Perhaps this will help you understand, he said. My investigation continued for days across universities. I spoke with students and colleagues, piecing together a picture of a community divided by Cantor's revolutionary ideas. It struck me then how these seemingly arcane disputes over the nature of numbers contain passions as fierce, and potential consequences as profound, as any political intrigue. Ideas, I realized, could be wielded like weapons, engines capable of building careers or destroying them. Yet on Fanny Kronecker's death, I found nothing conclusive. Only the nagging sense that the official account was flawed. I was preparing to return to Berlin when urgent word arrived from my publisher. A matter requiring my immediate attention. With considerable reluctance, and a profound sense of dissatisfaction at leaving the matter so incomplete, I cut short my investigation and returned to England. Weeks stretched into months. I corresponded briefly with Kronecker, sharing my regrets. His reply was courteous but subdued. In December of that year, Leopold Kronecker died, bronchitis, exacerbated by grief. The case of Fanny Kronecker was closed, unresolved. Yet the encounter left its mark. In my study, I returned to Cantor's papers, struggling with concepts stretching comprehension's boundaries. Infinite sets, transfinite numbers, glimpses into an unseen reality. And as I pondered these mathematical mysteries, the clash of these intellects, the hinted at ruthlessness beneath the academic surface, a character began to take shape in my imagination. A professor of mathematics whose genius had turned to darker purpose. A man who understood the hidden patterns of the world most could not perceive, and manipulated them. As I grappled with Cantor's dizzying infinities and Kronecker's fierce insistence on finite construction, I conceived of an intellect operating on a similarly grand, yet unseen, scale, a mind that treated the intricate web of London's underworld with the same structural ruthlessness Kronecker applied against Cantor, yet possessed of a moral vision akin to Cantor's commitment to his transfinite deity. A Napoleon of crime, yes, but born from the abstract battlefields of pure thought. I called him Moriarty. Years later, long after Reichenbach falls, and Holmes's eventual return, which I must confess was in part inspired by Fanny Kronecker's case, I received a curious package from Germany. It contained a single document, a letter in a shaky hand, signed by Georg Cantor, dated shortly before his death in 1918. Dr. Doyle, it began, you did not deceive me all those years ago. I knew you came at Kronecker's behest. You found no evidence of my involvement, because there was none. My battle was fought with ideas, not violence. Yet I confess I have followed your literary career, particularly your creation of Professor Moriarty. I recognized in him a darker reflection, of myself, perhaps, or of how Kronecker perceived me, leading him to use all influence at his disposal to destroy me. There is a strange symmetry. Kronecker denied my infinities, insisting on finite construction. Yet in your fiction, you constructed an infinity of your own, characters existing beyond any single story, taking on a life independent of his creator. Perhaps I did the same. I wonder if any of us realized what we were building, an infinity engine. A mechanism by which ideas transcend their origins and reshape reality. My mathematics, despite Kronecker, has done this. And your Holmes, as well as his nemesis Moriarty, though fictitious, have entered the collective imagination as fundamental archetypes. We are not so different, you and I. We have both touched the infinite, and been transformed. As I approach the end, I wonder, did Kronecker guess the truth? Not that I orchestrated his wife's death, I did not, but that ideas, once released, take on a life of their own. They act upon reality in ways their creators cannot predict or control. The infinity engine turns. Even now, it turns. The letter ended there. I never published it. Yet in quiet moments, I wonder about those two mathematicians and their bitter dispute. I think of Fanny Kronecker's mysterious fate, and the fictional villain born from that unresolved investigation. Was Moriarty truly a fiction? Or the manifestation of something glimpsed in that clash of minds, the shadow cast when genius turns upon itself? The infinity engine turns. And with it, the boundary between imagination and reality blurs, like the distant edge of some infinite set, receding always beyond our grasp.